I feel the body burning. Death and hatred to mankind.
Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath were an English heavy metal rock band formed in Birmingham in 1968, consisting of Tony Iommi, born at 1948, lead guitarist and the band's primary composer, Geezer Butler, born 1949, bassist and primary lyricist, Ozzy Osbourne, born 1948, the lead vocalist, Bill Ward, born 1948, the drummer. The band had multiple lineup changes following Osbourne's departure in 1979, with Iommi being the only constant member throughout its history. Black Sabbath has sold over 70 million records worldwide. William Ruhlman. Black Sabbath has been so influential in the development of heavy metal rock music as to be a defining force in the style, with their howled lyrics and expressing mental anguish and macabre fantasies. Except that few realise they weren't fantasies, and the anguish was all too real. Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash said of the Paranoid album, "There's just something about that whole record that when you're a kid and you were turned onto it, it's like a whole different world. It just opens up your mind to another dimension." And their music was a very accurate reflection of the realms they discovered. As Judas Priest vocalist Rob Halford said, "They were, and still are, a groundbreaking band. You can put on the first Black Sabbath album and it still sounds as fresh today as it did 30 years ago. And that's because great music has a timeless ability." Ultimately, however, Black Sabbath has paid a terrible price. Tom Morello said, "The heaviest, scariest, coolest riffs and the apocalyptic Ozzy wail are without peer. You can hear the despair and anguish in every kick-ass evil groove." Ozzy's excessive substance abuse led to his being fired in 1979, although the group reunited in 2011 and released their final studio album in 2013. During their farewell tour, the band played their final concert in their home city of Birmingham on the 4th of February 2017. Where are they now? Tony Iommi. In January 2017, a choral work by Iommi entitled "How Good It Is," with lyrics inspired by Psalm 133, received its debut performance at Birmingham Cathedral. In his autobiography, Tony wrote that his parents were Catholics, but weren't regular churchgoers. He continues, "I actually do believe in a God, but I don't feel that I have to press the point." Geezer Butler, born 1949, is married with 2 sons. He became a vegan and supporter of the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Ozzy Osbourne, born in 1948. In the early 2000s, Osbourne became a reality television star, appearing as himself in the MTV reality show, The Osbournes. Alongside wife and manager Sharon, and 2 of their 3 children. Kelly and Jack. He is now a grandpa. Bill Ward, born in 1948. Ward quit smoking, gave up alcohol, adopted a vegan diet, and no longer uses drugs of any kind. Ward has 2 sons, Nigel and Aaron, and 1 daughter, Emily. Perhaps the black has been expunged from Black Sabbath. Perhaps. Ozzy Osbourne. Even now, I have a lot of trouble understanding why Sharon stayed, or why she married me in the first place. Come to think of it, I mean, she was actually afraid of me half the time. And the truth was, I was afraid of me too. Afraid of what I'd do to myself, or even worse, to someone else. Dabbling in the dark side. The name Black Sabbath was chosen in 1969. It was based on the 1963 horror film Black Sabbath, starring Boris Karloff and directed by Mario Bava. As far as we were concerned, we were just a blues band that had decided to write some scary music. Ozzy Osbourne, I Am Ozzy. The record names reflect this choice: Evil Woman, Paranoid, and Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. But they have repeatedly said they are not Satanists. Tony Iommi. Iron Man, My Journey Through Heaven and Hell with Black Sabbath. Neither us or our music was satanic. Geezer and his family were very religious, Irish Catholic. He still is, but at the same time he was interested in occultism. He read a lot of books by Aleister Crowley. We both had an interest in what happened beyond and got involved in it quite a lot. But Aleister Crowley and drugs were not the direction to take. If you court the devil, he will appear. The band experimented with Ouija boards, tried seances, immersed themselves in drugs. They took a wrong turn spiritually. I Am Ozzy, Ozzy Osbourne. At Clearwell Castle, the only danger was scaring ourselves to death. We spent the evening putting the willies up each other with a seance in the dungeon. I don't know what we were thinking, because they're really dodgy, those things. You've got no idea who's pushing the glass, and when you're doing it in a dungeon, it's even worse. Osbourne and Butler wrote the lyrics for the song Black Sabbath, inspired by the work of horror and adventure story writer Dennis Wheatler, along with a vision that Butler had of a black, silhouetted figure standing at the foot of his bed. But none of them really understood what they were doing, and they got into very deep trouble by summoning dark forces. Ozzy Osbourne, I Am Ozzy. All I can say is that I lost 2 of the greatest people in my life, I said, trying not to choke up. Randy Rhoads and Rachel Youngblood. But it ain't gonna stop me, because I'm about rock and roll is for the people, and I love people, and that's what I'm about. And then they started to experience poltergeists. Poltergeist. A poltergeist is a supernatural being responsible for physical disturbances, such as making loud noises and throwing objects about. The term poltergeist comes from the combining of 2 German words, polten, crash, and geist, spirit or ghost. So in other words, a noisy or unruly ghost or spirit. They go back a long way. Thomas Keatley, World Guide to Fairies. There are demons called follets, who inhabit the houses of simple country people, and can be kept away neither by water nor exorcisms. And as they are not seen, they pelt people as they are going in and out at the door with stones, sticks, and domestic utensils. Their words are heard like those of men, but their form does not appear. Note that this is a brownie, since follets are invisible. Poltergeist activity typically starts with minor, isolated incidents. This could include unexplained sounds or familiar objects such as your keys or your phone moving from their usual place. But while poltergeist activity is typically short-lived, some cases have persisted for several years. Tony Iommi, Iron Man. After finishing the Born Again tour, I rented a house in Bel Air. It was a wonderful place, but I heard these noises all the time, people talking and bumps in the night. I'd look around the house, but nobody would be there. Weird things happened. I came back one night from rehearsal, walked into the kitchen and found a plait of hair on the kitchen table, a couple of feet long, like a ponytail. Another night I came home and found the same sort of thing wrapped round the handle of the front door. I couldn't explain it. I could never figure out the sound of people talking in the house. I called the Bel Air police every time I heard it. They'd go around the house. Nothing. The poltergeists, ghosts and apports of Kilworth House. Tony Iommi married his first wife, Susan Snowdon, in late 1973. Her parents lived in Kilworth House, a Grade 2 listed Italianate country house, built for John Entwistle, the High Sheriff of Leicestershire. It was completed in 1891. John Entwistle died in 1945, and when Entwistle's wife died during the 1960s, the Snowdon family bought the run-down Kilworth House and restored it. In 1999, the Snowdons sold Kilworth House, and it is now a hotel. Tony Iommi, Iron Man. Susan didn't want to live in my house in Stafford, so we decided to move to a place between London and Birmingham. We were looking at houses to buy, but couldn't find anything we liked. One day, her dad said, "Why don't you come and live here? This house is far too big for us." Sue went, "That's an idea." And so we did. We had a major part of this massive 200-room house. My father-in-law built a partition between their living quarters and ours, and we lived there for quite a few years. Just like in Carlisle, we weren't the only ones there. I saw an apparition going up the stairs one night. It wasn't like a three-dimensional person. It was more like a figure, and I had more weird things happening there. We had these big, old-fashioned keys in the door to all the bedrooms. I was in the lounge one night, and I had my briefcase open. I closed it, and I went upstairs to bed. I heard this big bang and ran downstairs again. One of the big paintings had fallen off the wall. I walked into the lounge and my briefcase was open, and I went to open the door and the keys had gone. All of them. Never found again. Things like that make you really think. Poltergeist, for a start, can be horrible. They can move an object. The Spirits home in. Following the chart success of Paranoid, the band were offered more studio time, along with a briefcase full of cash to buy drugs. Ward. We were getting into coke big time. Uppers, downers, quaaludes, whatever you like. It got to the stage where you come up with ideas and forget them because you were just so out of it. Recording was plagued with problems, many as a result of substance abuse issues. Struggling to record the song Cornucopia after sitting in the middle of the room just doing drugs, Ward was nearly fired. One album was even titled Snowblind, after the song of the same name, which deals with cocaine abuse. But the drugs were starting to really take a toll. Ideas weren't coming out, and we really got discontent, Iommi said. Everybody was sitting there waiting for me to come up with something. I just couldn't think of anything. And if I didn't come up with anything, nobody would do anything. Tony Iommi. Iron Man. My journey through heaven and hell with Black Sabbath. It was because of the vibe of the music that people felt it was satanic. We were actually invited to join satanic sects. Alexander's, the head witch of England, the king of witches, came to the shows, trying to get us into his thing. When we turned down an invitation to play Walpurgis at Stonehenge, this sect put a curse on us. We took that very seriously. That's when we started wearing our crosses. Maybe it was the Walpurgis thing, but one night we all had this dream about wearing crosses to protect us from evil. And so we did. Overall, it would seem they had got themselves into something way beyond their understanding, and they knew they were completely out of their depth. In December 1975, the band's record company released a greatest hits album titled We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll. Poems selected from Heinrich Heine by Kate Freiligrath Kruger. I called the devil and he came. To view him with wonder I began. He is not ugly, he is not lame, far from it. He is a charming man. By the time the next album was completed, Osbourne had been admitted to Stafford County Asylum in Britain. Ozzy Osbourne, I am Ozzy. I think war is just part of human nature, and I'm fascinated by human nature, especially the dark side. I always have been. It doesn't make me a devil worshipper, no more than being interested in Hitler makes me a Nazi. I mean, if I'm a Nazi, how come I married a woman who's half Jewish? Ozzy gets fired by Iommi. Iommi made the decision to fire Osbourne in 1979. At that time, Ozzy had come to an end. We were all doing a lot of drugs, a lot of coke, a lot of everything, and Ozzy was getting drunk. We were supposed to be rehearsing, and nothing was happening. It was like, rehearse today? No, we'll do it tomorrow. It really got so bad that we didn't do anything. In an interview with Metal Hammer via NME, Ozzy revealed how he thought he would be dead by 40 due to his lifestyle. I've fallen out of lift shafts and windows. I broke my neck on a quad bike. There was one time when I died twice on the way to hospital. Ozzy has since given up drink and drugs. On the 18th of August 1980, after a show in Minneapolis, Ward quit the band. It was intolerable for me to get on the stage without Ozzy, and I drank 24 hours a day. My alcoholism accelerated. Iommi and Butler had a falling out with Dio, replacement vocalist, who left in November 1982. Ward said, "This isn't Black Sabbath." Butler would quit Sabbath in November 1984. The Black Sabbath name limped on under the auspices of Iommi, but his former fellow band members were not impressed. Butler released Plastic Planet in 1995. His album contained the song Giving Up the Ghost, with the lyrics, "You plagiarized and parodied the magic of our meaning. A legend in your own mind. Left all your friends behind. You can't admit that you're wrong. The spirit is dead and gone." In November 2005, Black Sabbath were inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame, and in March 2006 the band were inducted into the US Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. At the awards ceremony, Metallica played two Sabbath songs, Hole in the Sky and Iron Man, in tribute. On 7th of March 2017, Black Sabbath announced their final disbandment. The Devil's Interval. Black Sabbath in their prime focused on ominous lyrics and doomy music. They also made use of the musical tritune called the Devil's Interval. Standing in stark contrast to popular music of the early 1970s, Black Sabbath's dark sound was dismissed by rock critics of the era, and the band received virtually no airplay on rock radio. The synergy between them as people was key. Tony Iommi wrote the music, Osbourne would write vocal melodies, and bassist Geezer Butler would write lyrics. Ward's style of drumming was also key. Furthermore, Iommi experimented with different drop tunings, including C-sharp tuning or 3 semitones down before settling on E-flat D-sharp tuning or a half step down from standard tuning. Ultimately, only those 4 people were Black Sabbath, and only they took their fans to the dark, dark world of the Archons, and they had no idea they were doing this. In Gnosticism, Archons are believed to be the last and lowest emanations of the intelligence hierarchy, terrestrials. Below them is the world of the actual devilish, the kingdom of darkness, ruled by the Prince of Darkness. On the whole, therefore, they had a narrow escape. At least, we hope so.